Call this May 22nd, 2025 Planning Commission, Watertown City Planning Commission meeting to order. Brandy, roll call, please.
Kakacek. Here. Byer.
Here.
Dolly.
Here.
Gosh, I felt
Bless
that
you.
coming on. Culhane. Aletsky.
Here.
Kays.
Here.
Dargis Johnson.
Here.
And Albee and Tate, our alternates, are absent. We have a quorum and a full board, and we need the majority to approve the items on the agenda, which is 4.
Wonderful. Thank you, Brandy. Next item on the agenda is invitation for public comment submittal. So if there's something that's on the agenda that you don't want to talk about, we'll address that towards the end of the meeting. I mean, that you want to talk about that is not on the agenda. Excuse me, sorry. Approval of the agenda. Any changes, amendments to the agenda?
Nope.
I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
So, motion by Dolly, second by Dargits. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Entertain a motion for approval of the May 8th minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Kays, second by
Second.
Michelle. All those, any changes, additions, amendments to the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Regular agenda 6A, the vacation.
Yes, thank you, Liam. So this is a petition to vacate a portion of 4th Street Southeast. Now that the property has been conveyed from Concrete Dakota to Buffalo Ridge Concrete, then just to kind of clean the property up and how they're utilizing it and how it has functioned is why the vacation is before you. Obviously, they have a conveyor belt that runs along 4th, and it very much functions as private property. The city has no use to have that right of way. It's, it's gravel. It's about all of this area down here, it just very much is already functioning in this way as private property. So it's honestly a good thing that we are cleaning this up and vacating the property. So we definitely recommend it. And then we are working with the owner and the fire department, and then, engineering and utilities to ensure that we have the sufficient easements that we need. So this is what we are requesting. So we have the drainage easement, and these might change because there's different ways that they can configure some of these turnaround easements and whatnot. So we have the drainage easement for this, for the west side of the property, and then the utility easement for existing, I believe, gas lines. And then there's a hydrant right in this location where that call out shows, but every time I go over there. Okay. So in this location where then that dotted hatch is where they would make sure that that area was always reserved for a turnaround, so that in the case that the fire department had to utilize that hydrant, their fear, just was like some of the other areas they put up the monster blocks. They just wanted to make sure that there was area that they could turn around adequately. So with that, I'll stand by for any questions.
Brandy, so we're only looking at that portion of 4th Street Southeast. Have we also looked at the portion further to the south on the other side of 11th?
Yep, and that was discussed, but there's other property owners involved with that. So, that just will wait until what the future brings.
We need 100% of all adjoining property owners to make that work.
Yep. And at this time, there's just no catalyst for them being involved with it. So that's where it's good that this is a full block length, and they're the owners on each side. So.
And that'd be the same with 11th Street going east and west there, which really, further to the west, it's all swampland there, right? Realistically, we're probably not going to ever develop 11th Street.
Right.
My only concern was that this would somehow hamstring us 10 or 15 years down the road, but it doesn't really go anywhere.
No, and then, even with your distance from 212 and everything, I mean, would you even want 10th? And 10th is already vacated, so that's already been decided. 10th has been vacated from here over to here. So
Brandy, when I'm looking on the picture, there seems to be a platted lot. Is that an H lot that's adjacent to, or is that private? Who owns that?
Yep, that is adjacent to the highway, and that is under their ownership. But yeah, just with 81.
But it's being utilized by the cement company. They must have rights to use that property.
Yeah, yep.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
So is there, once this land is vacated, is there exchange for money, or is it just their
Tax
Good fortune.
consequences.
taxes?
What? Can you repeat that?
So they don't pay for the land? I mean, it's just vacated and given to them, and it goes on the tax roll then, as
Yep.
Todd indicated?
Yep, that is the, like, today it just sits there as right of way, not collecting anything. So then, yeah, it does actually go back
Mr. Chair?
on the tax roll to
Mr.
private
Hayes?
property.
Brandy, do they have, I mean, they are currently using the right-of-way anyway. Do they have a permit to utilize the right-of-way in the fashion that they're using right now?
Oh, it's been long standing.
Oh, it's been, I'm just.
So
I know
who
you-
knows, one of those 1970 things again, probably.
Long before you were a thought.
Yeah,
They agreed in the office.
yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
So in the event that, the concrete company moves, is there any, do we foresee any issue with that being vacated? I mean, now it all becomes one lot. Does it get replatted, or how do these lots get put together?
Yeah, so at this time, I mean, we don't have any need for the right of way, and we don't foresee the extension of right of way being needed. But that all can be reconsidered in the future if something does change.
But do we require it to be replatted, or is it three separate plats?
Oh,
how-
yeah, they'll replat it.
It is replatted then as one large lot.
Yep, and then that's where they'll show all of our easements.
That'll be done administratively?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Further questions for staff? Hearing none, I'll open the public hearing on this one. Is there anybody to speak in favor of the vacation? Please identify yourself.
Hello, Board. My name is Chris Jacobson. I'm the area manager for Concrete. Yeah, Brandy's said everything that we wanted to say, I guess. It's been a longstanding, the road has basically been abandoned. The gravel, or the concrete stops roughly at about the Wendy's driveway in the back there, and it's gravel onto our property. There does get an occasional vehicle that comes scooting through there, but, for us, from a standpoint of having trucks moving, and aggregate trucks coming in and out of the yard and stuff like that, just from a safety standpoint, we want to get it closed off so that
A liability.
we don't have a liability issue for people coming down the road.
Okey dokey. Any other questions for Mr. Jacobson?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So when you say closed off, are you going to actually put something across the northern access there then?
We will, but we're going to work with the fire marshal to give them their turnaround access there, and then we'll probably barricade it in some fashion to the south of that so that we minimize the traffic from coming down that way so that we can keep accidents from happening on our property.
Or even signage.
Yeah.
And then you always access your trucks onto 81 at the south there, not up by those sheds. It looks like that's even kind of barricaded there, right?
Yeah, we come off 11th.
11th.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Mr. Jacobson? Additional proponents? Anybody else that would like to speak on behalf of this vacation? Any opponents? Anyone opposed?
Just a comment, in having a conversation here right before the meeting with the fire marshal, we're going to schedule a meeting with myself and a couple of our owners, with the city and with the fire marshal, prior to the city council meeting so that we can iron out any issues with the turnaround that we have. So that'll be completed before the council sees any recommendation that you give.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobson. Just please take a seat in the back or something, wherever. Stand by for additional questions or responses. You raised your hand, ma'am. Please come up here and identify yourself.
My name is Phyllis Wiles. I'm your neighbor. I'm not against it. I'm the one you see going through your parking lot because I know it's a street because my husband did all the variances to change the 10th. There's a lot of traffic from me in there over the weekends because I have trailers coming to my business. And so I'm not against them closing it. I wish that you would take and open 10th, just that half a block, because there's 6 businesses that run through there. And the count is high going on to 212. So my business is right there where the little finger was.
Oh, sorry. Right, is it here? Yeah, okay. And what is your suggestion?
Well, my husband had it vacated for, I believe it was for Dexter in 1971, before you.
Me,
I was
a couple
around.
other board members.
But he had it vacated back then, and if you took and did a half a block, if you went to the east,
Here, do you want to use this now?
no, but to the east, and just made that so that you get all that traffic, because if you look at the count on 212 and coming through the 5 businesses, yep, if they could take and make that a street to make it easier access, so it isn't all on that curve. Because I see cars coming and going, it's a nightmare to get onto 212. That's why they can't put their trucks out there, because it's crazy getting off onto 212. Because that's my only in and out legally.
You can just always pretend like you're going to go to Wendy's.
I could pretend I'm going to Wendy's, never eaten there, but sure.
Thank you, Phyllis.
Thank you.
Ms. Wiles, I don't exactly know how we would do that.
I know that you've
Well-
already give them 11th.
Well, part of the problem is if you're talking about accessing 212 south of
Actually, 81.
81, sorry, you're coming.
So
The only
right
thing
here.
there, the issue there is it would have to get permission from the state of South Dakota to get another access point there.
Oh, well, there is a curb cut there already.
Does it, but the question is, it would be a change, we'd have to talk to the
DOT.
state.
Yes, the DOT.
Just because you're talking about adding traffic that much closer to the intersection from a transportation engineering design standpoint could be problematic as well.
Okay, that makes sense. I understand that.
And I suppose too, because of your need and use, you probably could work out a private agreement as neighboring properties.
But then if he's going to block it off,
True. Yeah, I usually go in, I'm very respectful. I did that with Terra too, because I'm working later than they are. And I go through with my trailers to get off onto the road, because I can't get onto 212. And then sometimes my clients that are coming in for large loads. But that's on weekends when they're closed.
And 11th doesn't extend to between 3rd Street and 4th, there is nothing there, just trees.
No, right, but it's concrete on 11th.
Okay.
So we go through, because I know 4th was still there. Because they tried to vacate it years ago. I didn't find the file on that one. I have all the other vacations on it, but not that one in my husband's files.
Here John has a lot of.
I'm sure John does, but he's not here.
But just to reiterate, you're not opposed to the
No,
current?
I'm not opposed. I just wish there was more access, because there's actually 6 businesses that use that 4th
Mr. Chair.
up to there.
Go ahead.
So, Ms. Wiles, you're the building right on the other side of
Yes,
4th.
I own all the way down to the concrete.
Oh, you do, so both of those lots are yours, both of those? And then is it Spies Corporation next to you?
Yes, Jim and Ed on the next side.
And how do they how do they get to the back side of their building?
They go, there's that street next to it. Because they own that whole property.
So they own this too.
Yes.
Oh,
So they have an access on the back, the middle, and then all the way up by American Family.
okay, so being the realtor I am, those are sold, now what do we do? Because now we're back to,
Well, they have access to 212.
They have access to 212 only. But they're far enough off the corner.
cannot Ms. Wiles sell both of those lots separately? She doesn't need to sell them together.
Oh, this will still have frontage on 4th. We're only
Frontage on
vacating.
4th.
No, I know. I'm looking at the whole situation. I'm not, it probably doesn't have anything to do with him getting 4th. I'm just looking at the mess back there now.
It is a mess.
See what you brought to light?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, thank you, Ms. Wiles. Any other proponents, neutral parties, opponents, anybody else that wants to speak on this particular vacation? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
A motion to approve.
Motion by Dolly, second by Ms. Oletsky. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion regarding this vacation.
Well, I think Phyllis has a good question, on that.
I'm not entirely sure how to address it.
Well,
Yeah,
And
I
it's not
know.
really to be addressed on this particular motion.
Yeah.
as a sidebar, being that both those right-of-ways to the east and the west of the 11th have already been vacated, the only way that happens is the adjoining property owners or the property owners themselves would have to make a petition to unvacate or create a right-of-way there.
Yep.
If you did
And they
agreement
could-
such as that, you'd also want to do some sort of access easement or something to, put
Yep.
it down in the record.
So,
And that's something that they could work out a private agreement. And if they're able to make it work where she can still access like to 10th here on 81 or down, that those can all be worked out privately too. Because I don't know if you really want to open it up.
right, and because it doesn't pertain to this particular one, but, so the trees there, just because we're looking at it, this still shows 10th there.
Yeah, it is.
So both of those properties came halfway to get it?
Yep,
It just
that-
doesn't show it on
Yes.
here.
That was my first action, actually, when I started working for the city. That's on First District, I guess. I'm kidding.
All right. Any other discussion germane specifically to this particular section of Fourth?
I think just to reiterate a couple of the things that were historically been used as private property, it's not up to the standards of any street, and there's really no realistic scenario where the city does improve that into a street.
Thank you, Commissioner Dolly. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the vacation, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving on to ordinance number 25-6.
Okay, thank you, Liam. So through a previous Board of Adjustment variance item, we discussed looking at our Chapter 2179 for swimming pools within the zoning ordinance. And currently, we only have it in there to allow for, or that a barrier of a 6-foot fence is required. And so in looking through the International Building Code and then the International Swimming Pool and Spa Code, we plugged in some of those requirements because we also don't approve the ISPC SC through, we have omitted that section. They do have a lot of variables and standards and whatnot. So we picked apart what our main purpose of having a barrier requirement for swimming pools, for permanent swimming pools. That means that they're in place for more than 6 months out of the year. And so we picked out the pieces that we thought were important to what we were trying to accomplish. And that is basically that we do not have accidental drownings and safety. So what we came up with 2 options if you are installing a swimming pool. That would be you stick with what we've had in ordinance, which is the 6-foot fence. Or if you do the automatic pool safety cover that meets the standards of the ASTM, can't really tell you what that is, then you can do a 4-foot fence. Because ultimately, honestly, when this ordinance was created, I don't know if the pool covers were as advanced as the technology is today. And honestly, that's the safest thing. If you're not using a pool, that you just put the cover that it meets standards of a surface then, So the other things that we added for additional safety for either of the options is that they have the latches, that those be within 4 inches of the top of the fence, and then with the locking capability. So with that,
Good.
I'll
Thank you,
stand by.
Brandy.
And
Questions?
that the openings, that they do not allow passage of a 4-inch diameter sphere. That's another addition for either of the two options.
Baby's head. That's the size of a baby's head. I assume that's why,
Oh,
that's why they
okay.
do that. So you don't, so they don't stick their heads in. I think that's why that's, anyways. Further discussion or questions for staff?
This is basically exactly what we asked staff to do a few weeks ago, and I think it's a great job, Randy.
Very quick turnaround. Thank you, Brandy. Love to see it. Any other questions, concerns?
I just have a question on the locking mechanism. So even on a 4-foot fence, it says placed not less than 3 inches below the top of the gate, so it should be lower than that then?
Oh, sorry. Yes, it's 3 inches. I got messed up with the 4. So no, it has to be placed within 3 inches, basically so that, a child can't reach it. And for a 6-foot fence, that might be hard for a very short adult, but
I can jump. I could jump.
So I'm just reading that as well, and it seems like
Yeah,
it should say
say not more than 3 inches.
oh,
below.
okay.
Yeah, that's what because that was what I was trying to, is it so that you can't go over, or is it for the reach
Got
from
you.
there? So that stood out.
Okay, good point. And we can definitely we'll clarify that when we bring it forward. Or we'll change that. We'll just,
Once we go through the public hearing, we can just make a motion to.
Yep.
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 I'm going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone to speak on behalf of or against this? Anybody online? There was somebody online earlier. Did they just want to call in and hang out?
They were from Prairie Hills Circle, so I imagine for the Planning Commission or the Board of Adjustment action.
Okey dokey. Hopefully I didn't miss him. Anyone else?
Yes, 3 times.
Going once, going twice, going 3 times. I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion, perhaps with an amendment.
I move to approve as presented with the additional clarification of the position of the locking device.
Very nice.
Motion by Michelle, second by
I second.
Dolly. Further discussion.
Really like the changes here to allow for the new technology in place. I agree, it probably wasn't even a thought at the time that this original ordinance was mentioned. I'd just add that, the preference, in my opinion, really should be more on these devices because it protects the people that live there as well, right? The kids that are supposed to be within the fenced yard, as well as those you're trying to keep out.
And your insurance man will love you even more.
Yeah.
Definitely agree.
Nope, good work, all around. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion passes. Now is the time for open public comment. Does anybody have anything they want to say? Reed, you sat up. You don't have anything you want to tell
He's
us?
getting ready to go.
Any public comment, any open public comment? Okay, hearing none, new business,
Nope.
old business.
Nope.
And is there any need for executive session?
No.
Okay, then I'm just going to adjourn us again.
Thanks, guys.